And see if you can find somebody near you, anybody, and call them darling. It's Alabama, we don't put the G on there. Darling, thank you for standing by me. Darling, thank you for standing by. And darling, darlings, all of you, all of y'all, thank you for standing by me. Okay, I have a visual aid here somewhere. I buried it. Never mind. I guess that's not going to be what I'm going to do. Oh, no, I left it down here. So I have a test, just a tiny little test, to see if you know what this is. How do you feel about someone walking down here? Can you see me when I'm down here? Would you rather I stand up there and pretend I'm higher and more exalted than you are? Because you want me to be exalted? Okay, well, yeah, I'm going to work on that. Anybody know what this is? Can you see it? iPod. It's a tiny one. It's the tiny iPod. What's that called, the tiny one? Nano. Thank you. iPod Nano. All right, anybody know what this is? That's right. There are. Here's a clue. Okay. Here's a hint. When you keep these in the same pocket of your handbag, the headphones will not plug into the breath strips. Just so you know that. Now, how many of us at one time or another have done something like that? We've expected results that we couldn't possibly get from the place we were hoping to get them. Relationships, anybody? Yeah. I have a friend who calls it going to a Coke machine looking for a Pepsi. Or the other way, a Pepsi machine. Or now an iPod looking for a breath strip. It's not going to work that way. One of the things that the iPod means to me, this whole symbolism, when I pulled that out, I thought, this is about me being plugged in. I'll find a metaphor in anything. What's a metaphor? To keep the cows in, all right? So so I thought, this is a metaphor for me about being plugged in. So how easy is it for me to be plugged in? How easy for us all to be plugged in? It's a simple matter, really. It's Unity's 4th principle, that our lives are transformed as we devote time to prayer and meditation. And we are always plugged in. We cannot be unplugged, all right? That doesn't account for my living will. What is it that I heard someone say? If I'm plugged into life support and I'm not responding, turn it off and turn it back on again to see if that works. You PC users know exactly what I mean. So one of the things we get attached to is we have these goals, these ideas in mind that we want for our lives, and we have a picture in our minds of how we think that's going to look. And what I've learned along my pathway, when I say I've learned it, I'm just sharing with you my process of learning it. The learning is not all there, is that what is my business? What I want is my business. But how it turns out, that's God's business. That's God in me, Spirit in me, when I stay plugged in or aware of my being plugged in. And I stay faithful in prayer and meditation, the ideas flow through me. And I say, oh yeah, that could work that way. Oh, our kids are out on the playground. Hi, that's so fun. So one of our members had an idea in her mind about something she wanted for herself. And she had a picture in her mind of how she thought that was going to look. And then she realized that she had almost completely accomplished this idea she had for herself if she just shifted a tiny bit and had it look a little different. She has a master's degree in divinity from Vanderbilt. Her goal was to become a Unity minister, and along the way, she became a licensed Unity teacher, and let me tell you, that takes an awful lot of study and commitment, a lot of prayer and meditation, a lot of awareness of being plugged in, a licensed Unity teacher. And she's still working toward that goal of being an ordained Unity minister. Meanwhile, the International Metaphysical Ministry, which is associated with the University of Metaphysics and the University of Sedona, ordained her based on her coursework with them. So welcome to affirm her vows publicly with you, our licensed Unity teacher now, the Reverend Brenda Durham. Brenda, do you vow to serve your fellow man metaphysically to the best of your ability?
I do.
Do you vow to serve the interests of the International Metaphysical Ministry to the best of your ability?
I do.
Do you vow to abide by the final decisions of the Board of Directors of the International Metaphysical Ministry?
I do.
Do you vow to accept the responsibility of all financial obligations of your ministry to the parent body, the International Metaphysical Ministry?
I do.
Do you vow not to let personal suffering show forth to the public that could affect your work with them?
I do.
Do you vow not to acknowledge, to not knowingly, it's an interesting font, do you vow not to knowingly engage in any felonious acts, which could, we're talking about Brenda here, right? Felonious acts which could bring negative reaction to yourself and to your metaphysical ministry?
I do.
Do you vow to try to work together with other teachers, even though disputes may arise from time to time?
I do.
Do you vow to give service to those you can help, who are without means to donate, contribute, or pay for teaching, counseling, and other services of the metaphysical ministry?
I do.
Do you vow that unless you resign from the metaphysical ministry by written resignation, that you are expected to keep all ordination vows taken?
I do.
Do you vow above all that you accept ordination into the metaphysical ministry for the purpose of serving life and thus God?
I do.
Welcome to Metaphysical Ministry, Reverend Brenda Durham. There you are.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I love you. All right. So each of us, at one time or another, perhaps even today, we've each made promises to ourselves, haven't we? We've had, some of us have had 5-year plans and 10-year plans and 20-year plans and all that. And how many of them have worked out precisely the way you wrote them down? You don't have to raise your hands. I know what it looks like. And then along came Eckhart Tolle, who said, live in the now, live in the moment. And we began to ask ourselves, well, what is all this 10-year, 20-year, 5-year plan stuff? How does that bounce up against being in the now? And I'm here to tell you, I don't really know. I don't know. I don't know how it bounces up against that, because I look at my life and the different promises that I've made to myself over my life, and they've worked out very, very differently. I've been trying very hard to plug my earphones into my breath strips. And Brenda's experience has helped me to look again, to shift my perspective and to notice that, you know what? Almost every goal I set for myself, I've achieved them. They just don't look the way I expected them to look. Anyone relate? Can anyone relate? Thank you. Thank you. We get frustrated, don't we? We get angry. Our second principle, our unity principles, there are 5 basic principles for unity. The first one we talked about last week, the first principle is about God. There is only God. And the principle states God, the good, omnipotent, and that's one way for us to look at it when we first bump up against it, because many of us grew up with a God who was angry and vengeful and punishing. I just knew God was going to get me simply because I started an argument with my sister. And the human part of me who first read these principles of unity, the idea of God being good was new for me, and that's how I needed to read it at the time. But moving from that state of consciousness to the state of consciousness where I believe I am most days, not every day, most days, I see that differently because I know that in this human experience, we experience duality. We experience things that look good and things that don't look so good. We experience things that are heinous to us, and we experience things that are magnificent but we wouldn't all agree on any of those things. So from a mystical point of view, that first principle, God, good embodies all of that, everything that our opinions may call not good, that our thoughts may call other than fabulous, magnificent. It includes all that. It's absolute good from a mystical standpoint. And when we move to that second principle that says that we are expressions of God and therefore our nature is good too, then we can accept every part of ourselves. We can be gentle with ourselves, and we can be patient with ourselves. What does patience look like? Here's an example. Do you like knock-knock jokes? All right, let's do one. Y'all, you start. Who's there? See, it's patience, right, exactly. Patience. If you want to experience patience, hang out with a 6-year-old who's just learned knock-knock jokes, and he only knows 3. Really just 2.5. And just the same ones over and over again. You just want to say, oh, please. Or go and look up some more knock-knock jokes and teach them to them. Now, that's what Kristen Knight would do, right? She would just go do that. So you want to learn patience, do that. I think I've got patience down in driving. Mainly, I'm very patient with other drivers, except, I talked a few weeks ago about the ones who like to be on my bumper. I'm pretty patient with them, too. I'm patient usually with myself about arriving places on time. Usually the reasons when I don't arrive on time are because of my own failure to plan, or that I got distracted by something and I didn't stay on task. And so then I'm beating myself up because I'm late, and then I start getting impatient with the other drivers. And who's that about? It's not about the other drivers. It's about me being angry with myself. So instead, I can choose to be gentle with, thank you, God. Instead, I can choose to be gentle with myself. I can choose to be patient with myself. I can choose to be kind to myself. Anybody ever experienced 2020 hindsight? Yeah. Well, I'm going to invite you today to join me in transforming that into 2020 kindsight. So that when we look back on the things that we've said and done over the past, we're patient with ourselves and we realize we could have come no better way. I remember that, but I remember it lovingly. I remember with patience and love for myself. Anyone else ever worked in customer service? You want to learn patience? Work in customer service. The customer service representative at Domino's got a phone call from a guy, and he said, "Oh, man, I just got my pizza. There's no toppings on it, nothing. It's just bread." And the customer service representative, "Sir, I'm so sorry to hear that. What can we," and they were interrupted. He said, "Never mind, I opened the box upside down." So we can even be patient with ourselves when we do that. When there are things that we do that are different than we expected, things turn out differently than we expect them to be. And one of the reasons that I like things to work out exactly the way I plan them to be is because I have some issues that are called, yes, you know what they're called, knock knock, control freak. Now you say, control freak who? You see what I mean? We just get in the middle of it and we want to shift everything and change everything and make it all be exactly the way we want to be. So I want to invite you today to join me in being gentle with yourselves. And let's do that by praying the prayer, the affirmative prayer. If you choose to sing it, do that. I'd like you to join me if you would, and just place your hands over your heart center with me, if you will. I am gentle with myself. Again, I am gentle with myself. I hold myself like a newborn baby child. What does that feel like? What does that look like? And we open our eyes again. One of the things I'm learning about being gentle with myself and being kinder to myself is about compassion. A friend of mine invited me recently to decide for myself what compassion means to me. And so I've been exploring the idea of compassion. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What's the experience of compassion? And I invite you to join me in just exploring that for yourself. What does it look like? Because what I'm finding is it looks different for each of us. And what I'm also finding is people keep showing up in my life to offer me insights about compassion. Nabila showed up last week sharing with me a book that she just discovered about a vow of compassion. It's about self-compassion. It's about having compassion for other people. And for some people, having compassion for other people looks like social justice. It looks like taking action in the world. For others, it looks like random acts of kindness that are anonymous. Compassion. For me, compassion looks like patience. It looks like patience. It looks like Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. Love is patient. Love is kind. It looks like the second of the 5 agreements. Don't make assumptions. It looks like Stephen Covey's, one of his highly effective habits. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. To be able to just listen to another person and hear what they have to say without second-guessing ourselves, without saying, I'm not doing this right, I'm not good enough. Even Jesus had an experience that's recorded in the Gospels of frustration. He's walking with his disciples, and he decides he wants a fig, and he reaches up to the tree to take a fig from the tree, and there are no figs, and he withers the fig tree with his powerful mind. the figs were out of season, all right? So expecting figs from a tree that's they're out of season is about the same thing as trying to plug your earphones into a breaststroke packet. And yet, what did he do after that? He was frustrated, he was angry, but did he say, all right, that's it. I'm just not good enough. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this anymore. If I can't even allow a fig tree to lie dormant for the period of time that it has to lie dormant, I just can't do this, okay? I give up. Now, he might have said that, but it's not recorded, all right, in the Gospels. What he did was he went on to share from the Mount, from the Sermon on the Mount, which to me is the most powerful part of the entire Bible. The Sermon on the Mount, it starts about Matthew 4 and goes to about Matthew 8 or 9. And Eric Butterworth's interpretation of that and Discover the Power Within You is the most powerful thing I've read about the unity principles and how to use them in conjunction with metaphysical interpretation of our Bible. And I think I've just gotten completely down another little track. But the idea is that if Jesus can be patient with himself and move himself back to his path, go back to the mountaintop and multiply the loaves and fishes, and talk to us about being the light of the world, about seeking first the kingdom, but by the way, you don't have to seek it because it's already here. If he can do that, then can we just put one foot in front of the other and be kind to each other? Starting with being kind to ourselves, being gentle with myself. I am gentle with myself. Together, I am gentle with myself. I hold myself like a newborn baby child. I hold myself like a newborn baby child. Allow me to close with a prayer that acknowledges all the teachers who've shown up in my life, all the teachers who called me to ministry by showing me different ways that it looked. Teachers who showed me that the call to ministry looks like being a teacher in a school, who showed me that the call to ministry looked like being a missionary in Africa. The teachers who came to me and showed me that the call to ministry could look like just sharing with people I love from my own heartfelt experience. For this, I'm so grateful. So grateful. So grateful, too, to be able to know the path one step at a time and to have made the commitment to myself to be patient with myself, to be gentle with myself, to seek first to understand and then, maybe, to be understood. In the name and through the power of the living Christ, we give thanks. Amen.